Hi, welcome to another blind tasting on Ryan Benink's Whiskey World. As you might have noticed, there's something changed. I bought a new whiskey chest. This one is a lot bigger, looks a lot nicer, and I have also added some more whiskies in there, so it's well filled now. But I have still a lot of space for extra whiskies. Some nice news perhaps to share with you is that I received some samples from my friends from Saulek. They have a channel here also on YouTube, and Renee sent me some lovely samples which I've also added to the chest. So hopefully soon we will see one of his samples and we will review it. So anything else news? Not really. We're gonna review another blind whiskey sample. I have again no idea what it is. Right now I think there are around 100 samples in here, so a lot of whiskies to choose from. So let's start with nosing and see where we'll get. Interesting nose. I'm not sure if it's single malt, to be honest. It smells very sweet. If it's a single malt whiskey, then it has been in a whiskey barrel or a cask that had a lot of influence on the whiskey. But I wouldn't be surprised if it perhaps is a bourbon whiskey. What I get on the nose are sweet vanillas, honey. I get a little bit of wood spices, but not that much. I also get some figs. It's really fruity. Yeah, it's an interesting whiskey. I can't narrow it down right now very well. It can be, like I said, perhaps it's a bourbon. But I don't have much bourbons in here, as far as I know. So yeah, I don't know, to be honest. I get a little bit of pears. It's an interesting whiskey. Let's take a sip and see what happens then. It's quite oaky. It's quite oaky with sweetness. So I continue on the thought of being in an active whiskey cask. I'm not a big bourbon expert personally, so I'm not convinced this is bourbon. It's a little bit sour, like I get some lime. Let's see what the mouthfeel is like. Well, this is a difficult one. It's a little bit sour. It's very oaky. And so I get some limes, I get some lemon. And there is a lot of oak influence. And this can be also a whiskey that's perhaps a little bit longer matured. To be honest, when I had it longer in my mouth, I don't think that it is a bourbon whiskey. But it's very oaky, but not in a style of sherry oaked whiskey. So I think this is bourbon cask matured, perhaps first fill or second fill, for quite a long period of time. I don't think it's peated. Let's think about the ABV. Let's take a sip. It's not a high ABV. 46% or lower, I would say. Max 46. What do I think it is? To be honest, when I tasted it on the nose, I didn't get it. But when I was tasting it, it reminded me a little bit of a Fettercairn that I've tried. A Fettercairn, I think it's 28 years old. It's a light spirit, very fruity, but it has a lot, and perhaps for me a little bit too much, wood influence. Yeah, a lot of oak, dusty wood, wood spices, a little bit of leather and tobacco, but not the smokiness of tobacco, more the leather style note I get. And with that, it's very sweet. So some honey, some vanilla, and the lemon and the lime. That's the direction I go with. Now I don't know if this is the Fettercairn, but I do remember tasting the Fettercairn alongside with the whole range that they released. I think it was last year or the year before. So the 12, the 28, the 40 and the 50. And I remember that my favorite, I think, was the 40. I also like the 50. And the 12 was also very good for the money. But the 28 I didn't like. It reminds me of that whiskey. Now, I'm not sure if it is that whiskey, of course. Can be something similar, but it's not my favorite style of whiskey. It's very oaky, it's a light spirit with some sweetness, but a lot of wood influence. And I do like a whiskey with some nice wood influence. Like I do, for instance, like a Highland Park, for instance, the dark, which is matured in European oak, has a lot of tannins. I really like that. This one, not that much, to be honest. And perhaps it's something completely different. Perhaps it's not a Fettercairn. I should try it out, but I want to explore it a little bit further. Let me check the time for a second. All right, we got a couple more minutes before the file runs out. I get a hint of chocolate, some mocha. Yeah, it's light in ABV, not more than 46%, I think, and it has a huge wood influence. And if you like your whiskies oaky but sweet or light, then you might like this one. I'm not a big favorite. Peat, I don't think it has. As I said, it could be the Fettercairn, which is not peated. I also had like a Millstone Dutch whiskey, which was lightly peated, which had also quite some wood influence. Could be that one as well. What are more whiskies that have like a long maturation in bourbon? I have a single cask Balvenie, but which I remember to be a little bit better than this, to be honest. Look, if this is this is just not a whiskey that I like personally. It's just not a whiskey that I would buy again. It can be that it's a cheap starter whiskey, like an entrance whiskey. But if it's the Fettercairn, it's a quite expensive whiskey. And if you would be interested in that, I would recommend you to first try out a sample to see if this is your style. Because if not, it's a very expensive whiskey for the money, in my taste. Let's restart the video, the recorder, and then I'll take another sip just to check out if I let it open up a little bit more what it does, and otherwise we're gonna go for the refill. Yeah, honey, it's sour, and a lot of oakiness and wood influence. Let's see what it is. Let's have a sip first. So yeah, I didn't add any water to it. because it was quite light. Alright, this is the C672. Let's see what it is. Alright, we're gonna go first to the C and then 672. Wow, I was right. Sorry, Adam. I was right. It is the Fettercairn 28 years old. Wow. So yeah, like I could see, like you can see, it was a whiskey that I really remembered and that I really didn't like because of those reasons. Like, it's a light style of spirit, which normally doesn't have to be a problem because I do like the 12 years old. But in combination with the oakiness, and it can be that it's no, it's just not my style. It's just not my style. If you want to try it, because I'm very surprised myself. Like, I was part of a tweet tasting that I received all the samples. So I tried it from a sample. I have not bought a bottle. The price for 28 years old is high. So high that I never would buy it just to try. I would always first want to try a sample. So with this one I tried a sample and I really didn't like it. It was just not my style. Like, it does have some interesting notes, but no, not for me. And now I think it's almost, what's for sure, a year later, perhaps 1.5, almost 2 years later, since I tried it, and I've never tried it again since that day. And I get exactly the same notes. So, or my sample was wrong, or the Fettercairn 28 years old is absolutely not my style of whiskey. And I'll be honest with you, I want to be as honest as I can. That's why I do the blind tastings. This is a whiskey of a couple £100. Let me check what it sells for. Because when I saw the price, I was actually shocked. So Fettercairn 28, and I'm checking the price at Masters of Malt and pounds. So the website was loading it in euros, I guess because of my location. And in euros, it says 540 euros, which is in general not that cheap for 28-year-old whiskey. But in this case, it's a lot of money for a whiskey that I fairly wouldn't enjoy. If it would be a bottle of 50 euros, then I would have tried it. I also wouldn't have bought a second bottle. It's like that. I'm sorry. I really liked the Fettercairn 12 years old. I really liked the 40 years old. Fettercairn 28 years old. If your palate looks a little bit like mine, don't try it. Absolutely not. So this was my blind review of the Fettercairn 28 years old. A well-matured whiskey, but it shows a long maturation doesn't always mean a great whiskey. 28 years old, but for me absolutely not worth it. Not even worth it for a way lower price, to my taste. So thank you for watching. I will put some links in here. I will put the other blind tastings that I did right here. And I think I reviewed actually on the channel the Fettercairn 50 years old, which is also very nice, but extremely expensive. So I got a sample and I wouldn't pay that money, of course, because I simply don't have it. Check out the Fettercairn 15 years here as well, 50 years. And another thank you to René from Saulek Whiskey channel. Check them out, I'll put the link in the description. He sent me over some samples, we swapped them. I sent him some of mine, I received some of his. and you will find out which one they were if you keep on following me. If you like this style of videos, feel free to give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day and enjoy your whiskey.